Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always, would encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we would ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before I bring in my guest tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to bring in my guest. Joining me tonight is the master of the post-match reaction, Alec Anderson. Alex, it's been a while since we've done this. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, mate. Yeah, just you saying that, I've realised that I haven't done the last two post-match reactions. Or two friendlies. I just totally binned it. So apologies to everybody. I don't think anybody particularly missed it, but very kind of you. So, Brian, I took a wee break during the actual break in the Premiership, because it's a lot of, I'm still trying to take in the fact that we actually won the League Cup, never mind what we did to Real Betis. Still trying to absorb all that, so I was needing to let that kind of sink in. Just got away from the football for a couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to talking to you, and you can get me up to date on all these signings that we've made. You must have made a whole lot of signings while I wasn't paying attention during this January transfer window. How's yourself, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good, yeah. I kind of watched the friendlies, but we won't go into too much detail on it. I don't think you can take much from the friendlies, to be honest. They were effectively two bounce games. I think, in today's world, people tend to get a bit kind of on high about friendlies when, when years gone by, you would have read about it in the paper and that would have been it. So I think people tend to read a bit too much into kind of friendlies.
Well, just over a year, it was maybe 13 months ago, Michael Beale's Rangers battered Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 in a mid-season friendly, and they're now running away with the Bundesliga. So I think that kind of tells you how much stock you can put into the friendlies, mate. I'm
sure we probably spoke about that because we were doing the World Cup pods at that point, so we were probably raving about that.
That's it. That's it. This is the right man for the job. I always said he was.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we were saying at that time. Anyway, the first kind of thing I wanted to get your take on was, now that we're kicking off the second half of the season, what do you think is achievable for Rangers in the remainder of the season in terms of our goals? And do you think coming back from the winter break we're in a good position to achieve our goals?
Yeah, this is all going to be posited on if we do sign anybody, isn't it, Brian? Really heavily posited on the business we do in this month, if we're going to do any at all. Obviously, we've got Fabio Silva and we got him early doors, and I think that's what happens a lot of times. The madness of Rangers Twitter, which I'm a part of, it's, you almost forget the guys that you've got in early. You want a big name signing that you understand his role and all that every single day of the transfer window, or else the club just aren't achieving. But I think you're right the way you framed that question there, Brian. It's really important. We did lose a manager this season. We did have to change manager in October, and it's been so emotional. I wasn't actually even joking about the having to sit back for 2 weeks and just absorb what has happened here. If Rangers means as much to you as it does to you, me, and all our listeners and viewers tonight, you sometimes do just have to kind of sit back and absorb everything. The League Cup was something we were becoming obsessed with, and we got it done and all that. And I think it's almost like the manager hasn't done himself a favour, hasn't done himself any favours by doing so well. The new manager bounce has been off the scale, I think, and maybe most football supporters are pretty knee-jerk anyway, no matter whereabouts in the world you are, but I think particularly at Rangers, we do not, Vic and Bob, shooting stars, we don't take stock. We don't sit back and go, we need to be grateful for the fact that we won that League Cup and we topped our Europa League group. And I think if there's a few setbacks from now on, that's okay, that's acceptable. No. Philip Clement has got us close enough to Celtic in the league. We want the league. I think the league's a big focus for most fans, but I think we've done the business in Europe as far as I'm concerned. It would actually be okay, as long as we don't get hammered off anybody. I think getting us into the last 16, when so many Rangers supporters are just targeting the league this season, I think it would be almost acceptable for us to drop out of Europe if we were going to use the extra energy, hopefully not having that on our fixture list would give us enough to go on and win the league. I'm not particularly convinced about that. I think you should just go for it in every single competition. Yeah. And I do still rate Europe over the league. But I think most Rangers fans will think we've got to aim to get the league. And it's very, very doable. Very doable. And I think Celtic are far from perfect article. I was convinced we were going to equalise in that game at Parkhead. Yeah. Not just seeing it through the blue blinders.
Opportunity when he had the shot and he could have potentially passed it across the Tav. Yeah, that's it, mate. I still think about that one.
That's absolutely it. And there's sometimes you just feel like we're just making a fist of this, and ultimately we did. But you watch Rangers at Parkhead so many times down the years. I think it was pretty clear that we looked like we had the ability to equalise in that game, and I think Celtic also had the ability to chuck it as well. But that's how close we've come. And I think he's boiled us down to our essence. Clement. He's just got us to the point where we saw exactly what the squad needs in that game at Parkhead, and how much he's getting out of them. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's a kind of a wee setback, a wee lull, and that's why we need new players in. But for me, sorry, but your question was targets. What is the targets? We've got a cup. Europe is a success now this season. But I think we need to have one more trophy, and obviously we would prefer it to be the league. If we're going to lose the league, it's got to be close, and we need to win the Scottish Cup as well. But I would be really frustrated if we didn't make a right good go of it with the league title. I think we're still going to be absolutely gutted. Nobody's going to sit and go. Because for me, we've got four managers basically in the space of 2 years, just over 2 years for the club now. That means there's an undertow being created by that kind of instability. And I think I wouldn't be surprised, mate, if we have a wee setback in the league, that maybe slips away from us. But maybe have a chance to rectify that in the transfer market, But for me, it's all systems go for the league title, mate.
For me, the league is crucial, not just because it's the league championship and Rangers should always be winning the league championship as far as I'm concerned, but it also gives you now automatic entry into the Champions League, and it's the new format of the Champions League which potentially opens up to even more money, and we simply can't allow that financial gap to widen. Because of our good work in the last 5 years in the Europa League, we now get automatic entry, but we've never been able to benefit from that because we've never been able to win the league that season to get automatic entry. So for me, that's the other thing for me that's driving that kind of want to win that league. It's not just because it's league championship, but
it's been the next thing, hasn't it?
The Champions League.
Yeah, it's been the next kind of tantalising thing that we have to do. I mean, we've went from we can't win that bloody Challenge Cup, and that's segued with we can't win that bloody League Cup, and the next thing, we've won the league title, we've got the Scottish Cup, now we've got our League Cup, and it's the European, we've got to a European final, but we can't quite do the Champions League the way we want to, and I think that will then, as you're saying, Brian, quite rightly, that drags us up to the next level financially, if we can start regularly accessing the Champions League, and that's what it's all about for me. I think I'm just constantly thinking, right, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, and we have to say that it's not going to be a failure if we don't win the league this season. I know it always is for Rangers, like you're saying, but in terms of, right, let's start getting big banners of James Bisgrove in the crosshairs or something like that, and the snipers, the crosshairs. No, we're not at that stage just yet if we don't win the league this season. But that's got to be the target now, mate, and it's going to be a disappointment if we don't.
Definitely. Another thing I wanted your take on was the winter shutdown in general. Are you a fan of it? It's still a relatively recently. It wasn't that many years back when, football in Scotland and even in England didn't shut down for the winter. But I noticed this year, the English Premier League did it slightly different in that they've staggered their winter breaks rather than take, 2 weeks off completely. They've sort of staggered it, so there's still games on. Some teams get 1 week off, then the rest of the teams get the other week off. Do you like the winter break? Or would you prefer no winter break or even a staggered approach as the Premiership have done it? I've
completely changed. From a personal point of view, I used to love, football over the Christmas and New Year period.
Yeah.
And I think it's just my kind of, I don't want to get too deep, but my kind of family situation, extended family. Lots of people that I really love and all that have died. And as I get older, and Christmas, it used to be a wee tad stressful. Do a lot of kind of driving about and all that as well. And I used to like getting away from the madness. and going to the football. A different kind of madness, a different kind of family to get to the football. I used to really enjoy that during the Christmas and New Year period. I never really wanted it to stop. Now I really enjoy Christmas and New Year, and I really like the break. And I'm kind of frustrated that they don't move the winter break in the SPFL Premiership to just make it across Christmas and New Year, so we can just enjoy. From we had a game on Christmas Eve, and then you go to Parkhead on the 30th, which has got the potential to ruin New Year for you, which it did kind of. It's just. I was really glad that we had the game against Dumbarton to get us up and going again before we went in that break, and set us off in a kind of a feeling of stability rather than failure, which it would have done if we'd gone straight to winter break after Parkhead. But I think I'm sure it started like in '99, certainly, and over the last few years, it's been since we come back into the top flight from our spell in the lower leagues, it's been kind of weird. We had last season, the winter break was moved to December for the World Cup. The season before that, it was moved to help Celtic win the league, and the season before that, there was no winter break because of COVID. That's when we won the league. That's when we won the title, and I just feel as if there's other factors at play here and why Rangers haven't won the league, but maybe black superstition as well. But this whole thing of it used to be Dubai. And we would stop, and we've been in great form, especially Gerrard's first couple of seasons. We beat Celtic. We're in the hot seat.
Is that still a concern for you? The last kind of couple of winter breaks when we've came back, we've not hit the ground running straight away. It's always kind of that's when our kind of league challenge is faltered.
And it used to be, as you say, you play right through. And the Scottish Cup hasn't really moved. The first time the first round that Rangers are involved in the Scottish Cup, winter break or not, it's kind of late January, and it's become over these. The routine will be almost, we're doing really well, even under Gio as well. When Gio came in and that winter break get brought forward, Celtic had drawn at St Mirren with St Mirren's reserves because they were shot to pieces by COVID, and we were laughing at them basically. And we were on fire under Gio, just racking up the wins. And then it was we go away and we come back and we'll go away. It'll be a mad friendlies against Lokomotiv Tashkent or something in Dubai, or we're beating Atletico Mineiro and Corinthians in the Florida Cup and stuff like that. HJK, Helsinki, Copenhagen, Hertha Berlin, that kind of stuff. And then you've got the Scottish Cup game, and it's usually against lower league opposition, and we're no quite convincing. The only time we've won the Scottish Cup since we come back for the last over a decade was when we beat Stirling Albion 4-0. Gio's first kind of half season in charge. We come out and we scalped him 4-0 that game. That's the only time I've opened up the Scottish Cup against lower league opposition with a properly convincing performance. There's always been a bit of stutter, and then we start stuttering the league straight away as well. So I'm interested to see what Clermont makes of it. But I think the team right now, we need it. We absolutely needed it. Because if we can't get the signings in that we want to, we definitely need to make sure we try and get as many of these players fit, rested, and on board. Clermont's had a chance to put more tactics into them and give them more pep talks, etc. They've definitely needed that. If nothing else, just take it over, as I say, the same emotional stuff that we've already had to experience with winning stuff, winning the League Cup, winning our Europa League group in such amazing style. That in itself can take it out of you after having yet another season where we've changed manager. So the players need time to digest that. But generally, I am up for the winter break. I just wish they'd move it to Christmas and New Year, mate.
Yeah, Clermont seemed quite big on the winter break. He seemed to really think it was a key moment to kind of have the squad living with each other for that 2-week period. And he talked quite a lot about the one-to-ones he was going to have with players. So hopefully, can also. See, the thing is, Brian,
we're talking. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're talking about we're not on a pod for a while, so I've got a lot to say. Sorry, we've got this whole thing where we need you and I saying we need the break. But we're also trying to get signings in, and we need to get into the Champions League to get ourselves back on proper financial parity with Celtic. See, when we get to that point, well, if we've got hopefully the strongest squad in Scotland again, I don't want a winter break. I want to steamroller everybody else. That's when you want. And I think just now, because we're not at that level, just of having the kind of depth or quality of squad that we need just now. We're kind of playing catch up. We're trying to patching and mending in places. I think we need the winter break just now, but it's probably maybe suited us more to have it. Celtic probably have wanted to continue for that 2 or 3 week period and just see if we had any more slip ups while we were struggling to get players fit. But we get back to full strength, then I don't want a winter break for Rangers.
I think it's definitely came at a good time this time around. Now, on to Kinnear's favourite subject, and that is transfers. So, as we kind of mentioned before, only Fabio Silva in so far. Just on him, have you seen much of him? What do you think we can expect from him for the rest of the season?
He's definitely Portuguese. He definitely likes to hit the deck. Is this?
Yeah.
They're one of the most. They're one of the most beautiful. It's like see the biggest at the World Cup. The one game that had the most amount of bookings, a record number of bookings in a World Cup match. I think it's like 20 or something like that. But it's Portugal against the Netherlands, and it was in Nuremberg of all places, almost kind of appropriate during the 2006 World Cup. And it's like two countries that get a reputation deserved for playing some of the most beautiful football the world's ever seen. Two European champion countries, but also I think the Dutch are the most violent football nation on earth, as well as being one of the most beautiful to watch. And the Portuguese are arguably the most cynical when it comes to the diving, the cheating, the stuff. So he's got street smarts. I think he's definitely going to protect himself. He's been hitting the Ibrox turf, even that wee 50 minutes against Kilmarnock, and then the other night against Copenhagen. I caught up in highlights and what have you online for that game. But he looks sharp. He's putting himself about. He's obviously got match fitness to get. That's the whole point of him being here. I like the fact that the manager said in the press conference today that he wanted to sign him. He basically he didn't want to have him on loan. He wanted to sign him, but he couldn't afford him. He's been a bit of a wunderkind, and I know that doesn't always lead to the guy being having that kind of career, having a totally successful career. Maybe he's burnt out, but I think he's not been given the opportunity at Wolves. They've got a lot of money down there, a lot of money at Wolves. So that's no real disgrace. Played at good levels in other leagues in the Netherlands, etc. Scored the winner. Didn't he score the winning penalty in the Dutch Cup final? So he's used to pressure as well. He can cope with that. But a big time guy. I think just the question just now is we need other players in beside him. We need strikers. We need more strikers. I don't think he's maybe suited to playing the out and out striker role that he's maybe going to have to play just now. His needs must. But a good prospect. But I think it ticks all the boxes. I think it's a good signing. You can look at it on paper. That's a proper signing. But we've been there before very recently. It didn't turn out, playing on grass, all that kind of stuff, different things. But it looks good on paper, but we need to wait and see just exactly how good the boy is.
Yeah, you mentioned there we need strikers. Is that the main position we need to be focusing on now for the rest of the window, or do you think we need reinforcements in other areas? Brian,
I think, to be honest, mate, it's like we've got. Obviously, I'm gorgeous, right? I mean, I'm like kind of physically beautiful and all that. I've got the hair, and I've got to get my
and humble.
That's it, mate. I've got to get the fringe at my eyes all the time. My eyesight's perfect, teeth brand new. Just no ounce of fat on me, that kind of thing. But I think it's all about just now with Rangers, the team. Like it's like a whole lot of stylists. You got a guy telling you to go in the gym. You get your own personal trainer. You've got a makeup artist and stuff like that. Everything else run about you, and in good lighting, I can really look like I could get away with it. Look properly attractive, but when it all comes down to it, I am old. I'm 54. I'm broken. Doesn't matter how much fitness I get into. Doesn't matter how much makeup I put on. I am just 54, and that's all there is to it. And I think Rangers are the same just now. We've completed the football board. We've got everybody. Everybody's there. We've got a great manager. I think the board is looking good. We're expanding the capacity of the stadium. We've got Edmiston. Everything is all set up, but the thing right at the middle of it. The football team is old. The squad's old, and I think we need to. We're not going to be able to keep getting away with it. I think right now needs must immediately. I think we need two strikers. I think we need to ideally sign two strikers in this window. Danilo's not coming back anytime soon. The manager was confirming today. Kamar Roof, you just never know when he's going to play. Dessers is a good reserve. I think is a first reserve type player, capable of absolutely fantastically, setting. He's played some fantastic balls through to Rabbi Matondo and other players for them to score through the season. He's got street smarts, he's got skills, he's got stuff, but he just cannot get that ball out of his feet when it counts. I think Parkhead showed up both how good he is in the build-up and how bad he is when it comes to the crucial moment. Although I'll go for the ages he scored against Real Betis and Seville. But he won't do. And Sima being at AFCON is just giving me the absolute fear, because he has been one really stable factor. I think him and Tav have been our players of the season so far. And he's definitely been the pick of the signings in the summer, obviously, Seema. And I think we're going to miss him greatly. So I think we need something else up front. And I think we need something that right. Ross McCausland has worked wonders, but I don't know how long that's going to continue. I know he's not as young as everybody makes out, but he's still relatively inexperienced, and I don't want to break him. We've got to get something else for the right-hand side, and I'm scared to actually say we should get some more sitting midfielders, because it is, I don't know if you know the film Spinal Tap, Brian, but the drummer for the group Spinal Tap, that's the joke in that film is he can't flip, he keeps dying. They have to get a new drummer all the time because the guy keeps dying. And that's what it's like. It's like the drummer at Spinal Tap, the two sitting midfielders, whoever we put in there. Just the injuries in that sitting two has been ridiculous this season. So I think we actually need to get somebody else in for that, and we're going to need another centre half. Ben Davis, injury prone. John Souttar, mistake prone. And Balogun, too old already, probably, although he's playing fantastically and I love the guy. And Connor Goldson has had that big injury, and he's getting to that stage in his career where he might start getting more injured, and he's going to need help. We're going to need to be able to rotate him as well to get the best out of Big Connor, who's one of our absolute stars. So two strikers, two for the midfield, maybe one of them out in the right and one of them sitting midfielder, and a centre half. So 5 signings in the next 2 weeks, and I'll be absolutely happy, Brian. And they've all got to be fit. That's got to be the priority. We need to have players who can play, who can do that Tav thing of, even if they're not playing spectacularly, they're just there all the time. Not just so your top players are fit and they're able to play for you, but so you can build up a kind of understanding, get a bit of shape going, because constantly, this is one of the real feathers in the cap. This is why we know Philippe Clement is a great manager, because he's got so many different players over the last 3 months to fulfil this 4-2-3-1 formation and have them performing at the level they have done, achieving the things they have done. So, but to actually get in, to be able to put out maybe 8 players, imagine that are consistently playing week upon week, and to be able to take us up a level because they're consistent, they know each other, they're getting a bit of familiarity going, then we are looking at winning trebles and stuff like that. But I don't think the way the manager was talking today, I think we'll be lucky to get 2 more signings.
Yeah, I think we'll need to be patient. I think it might run until the kind of last weeks and possibly last day of the window, the way things are looking.
Sorry, Brian, I'm talking too much. What do you think yourself? What are you after?
I mean, I think strikers got to be the main priority. I think centre mid for me would be second priority. Like you say, we've got a number of centre mids that we just can't rely on. And like you say, whoever we do sign, I don't want to be the first thing I hear about them. I don't want to be. He's a great player if you can keep him fit. Aye. That seems to be the type of players that we've been signing.
Alec Lowry.
Yeah,
Alec Lowry's come back today. Hearts have sent him back to us, and he's got a back injury. It's like, the minute you come back to Ibrox, even just to walk through the door to get sent back out on loan to somewhere else is what's going to happen with Lowry. He's got an injury. It's unreal. I think what we're supposed to do, Brian, is name names and list all the players we want. And I am so not into all that. I think it's a complete waste of time. There's a total.
It appears that as soon as you name a name anyway, Rangers come out and quash it. So I don't know if there's any point in mentioning names at this point anyway. Watching
Rangers fans falling out on Twitter a couple of weeks, last week, it was, as soon as we announced, was it Michy Batshuayi?
Yeah.
There was a rumour that he was going to be potentially coming to Rangers, and it was like, oh, but you can't have him, and that means we're not going to get Shankland. And people were doing polls on Twitter. Who would you rather have, Shankland? None of the two of them have any sniff of them arriving so far. You know what I mean? It's just, I think there's people out there who've got lists of all the players that are they think would be good for Rangers, and that's absolutely fine. I admire that level of kind of studying and understanding football and looking into football and talent all over the globe right now. But when it becomes this guy's going to sign, there's people trying to, he's going to sign, we're going to sign this guy. I'm hearing from a friend of my auntie's, Doug, that this guy is definitely on the way in, and then next thing there's a war about whether we like him or no. And then it was never going to happen anyway. I've got a kind of filter thing, whereas I switch off. I try to switch off, especially in January, for all this stuff. But if there's something that gets through anyway, that must be one that I'm kind of fancying as well. And I have to say the Shankland thing has really grown on me. And there's obviously something happening at left back as well. There's so much talk. The manager was poo-pooing it today, but there seems to be so much talk around about Ridvan that I don't know if he's playing so well just now, just because he's getting a game because Borna's injured, or if because he's been told, oh, by the way, you're going back home. His mum saw him off to the airport. And like when he left Besiktas, he's just, and it's the fact he's so wee as well, he looks like he would just be really happy to go back home. And it's typical that the game he played against Kilmarnock's probably the best game. He was a man of the match that day by a mile, and just looked like that's what happens. He's absolutely brilliant actually, and he's going to go. But I don't know who would be getting in to replace him.
Just on Ridvan, would you be in favour of selling him now, or would you look to hang on to him and try and cash in on him in the summer?
I say that's dependent on what the actual situation is. I thought it was the manager today saying no. He was straight away denying the rumours that were coming out this morning from Turkish media, which we know is even crazier than our own. It's just the kind of stuff that's never going to go away when you've got a Turkish player, or even like Yanis Hadji with all his connections with Galatasaray through his dad and what have you. There's a determination that he's going to end up getting back there. I think we forget that he's still a Rangers player just now, I think. But I don't know. It's never really worked for him. I wouldn't be bothered if he was going to go. I think the manager maybe poo-pooing it today because if there's any hint, if he says, Ridvan wants to go back to Turkey, for example, to get into the Turkey squad for the Euros, and that's immediately knocking $1 million off the table, when it comes to the bidding for him. That gives you, whoever's trying to buy him, an advantage in negotiations. So I think if he doesn't want to be here, if the only reason he's been playing so well, or playing so energetically, there's a lot of flaws in his game over the last month or so, especially with his passes inside, short passes inside, but he got to the point in that game against Kilmarnock, he was sensational. If that's the only reason he's been playing well is because he thinks he's going to go, then he should go. It's never really happened for him here. We've all got problems with his height, exposed by a certain Lawrence Shankland at Ibrox as well. But I have a funny feeling that we're trying to get. He's maybe going to. This is just, I guess, this is the kind of, I'm slagging people for making crazy guesses online, but it's almost like that's going to start the dominoes toppling. If we get, maybe it's 4 million we're looking for, or whatever, if we get the money, the number that we're looking for Ridvan, then that can let us start buying other people, and the whole kind of, hopefully all things will start falling into places. That will start a few players coming to Ibrox, maybe a few more going out as well. But I think for me, Ridvan, there was talk of him getting loaned back to Galatasaray, and it's like, no, that seemed a strange one. He stays or he gets sold. But without knowing the actual situation, reading between the lines, I'm guessing just now that he's going to go in January, and we're just waiting for the right amount. Yeah,
I'd be in favour of keeping him. To honest, I quite like him. If I'm honest,
as long as he wants to be here, mate. Yeah, I think he's doing okay just now. Yeah, but I don't know.
I guess it all comes down to money at the end of the day, and whether he wants to be here or rather return to Turkey. But I suppose we'll see in the next few weeks.
It's a weird one. It's like the Tav situation. I know we've got Adam Devine always in the reserves, ready to fill in for either full back or whatever. But I think we don't talk about Tav. Like, we need to get a backup in for him. And it's been like the last few months, or maybe this whole season, the last year or so, it's not been so much Borna Barisic as number one and Ridvan's his understudy. It's been like they've been rotating. Whatever one's available, whatever one's fit, but you're kind of mixing and matching. If you could give him Barisic's height and crossing ability to Ridvan, you would have the perfect player kind of thing. But we would definitely to sort of, Borna's not solid enough. He looks like he's probably going to go as well. I think we definitely need to get a left back in as well, obviously, to replace Ridvan.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go on to previewing the weekend's match, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Football Prizes. They're currently running a competition to win a signed and framed Phil Clement Rangers shirt. For more information on how to enter, please visit footballprizes.co.uk/product/Clement-Rangers. Right, now Alex, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on Dumbarton, but I'm sure you've got a few stats, so I'll let you take it away.
See, this is the problem, Brian. I'm never going to get up, get the move to Heart and Hand or the Rangers Review, because just this isn't the bit I'm supposed to be excited. I'm supposed to have all the information and be dead excitable about the transfer market and who we're going to get. And I'm supposed to have names and contacts and things like that. This is where I get excited, and it's really sad. And it's not even because I know that much about Dumbarton. I just know enough to get myself into trouble. And I love it. They're formed in 1872. We're formed in 1872. The 1872 Cup at the Rugby. This is what we're talking about here. And that whole area, I just find it really historically absolutely fascinating. That whole area. You get past the A82. Is it Milton? But in the outskirts of Dumbarton, it's like it's like the town in Rambo. First Blood, where Brian Dennehy's the sheriff. It's all kind of all these single-story buildings. There's a kind of weird Starbucks and a travel lodge and all that. But between that kind of bit and that big massive car park at Loch Lomond Shores, you had Renton. That used to be the powerhouse of world football. The champions of the world came through there, and it was like Renton who went out of business, but they won the Scottish Cup. And you had Vale Leven, later kind of. They had their name taken over by a juniors team, the juniors team to this day. But teams like them that were winning the Scottish Cup, Dumbarton won the Scottish Cup, Renton won it, Vale Leven won it, and I think they all played each other in the final at one point or another as well. Amazing. And of course, Rangers shared the first league championship. The first ever Scottish League championship was Rangers and Dumbarton shared it in 1891. Then Dumbarton won it the following season. And I think it's amazing the last lower league game, the last game Rangers won in the lower leagues, which was the Scottish Championship, which is strictly speaking the same competition as 1890-91, was against Dumbarton. We beat them 1-0 at Ibrox. Tav scores the only goal of the game. That's us. We've won the trophy. Now, I don't know when the Scottish Championship trophy, the SPFL, the SPL took over in 1998. A different body, and so like we've got in England the old Championship trophy, but down to the second tier. But I don't know if it was that trophy was around in 1891, but it was quite amazing. I thought that we'd waited all that time from 1891 to finally rub it in Dumbarton's faces. Although I think we beat them in 1897 Cup final. But I used to work in Dumbarton, Brian, and I also used to when I come from Ardrossan, and used to work at AT Mays, the big head office in Saltcoats, a local employer. I worked there for a pittance straight out of school. And what I really loved about it was we had a works team, and somebody in the office knew somebody who was associated with Dumbarton for some reason. And we got old Dumbarton kits. That was our works team. We played in old Dumbarton kits. So I used to wear that, the old Dumbarton. It's actually a beautiful strip, Dumbarton. I don't know what their configuration is this season, but when they do it with the kind of white, with just the black and the yellow or a black and gold band, it's absolutely beautiful. And I was at the first game ever played at their new stadium, or the stadium they're currently in. I was at one of the last games ever played at Boghead, their old stadium, and I went to they played Elgin City. That's the programme there I'm holding up. Paddy Flannery scored their first ever goal, and I wrote a wee piece about it for a website I was doing stuff for. And the guy from the Dumbarton programme contacted me and said, "I saw your piece about going to the first game at Dumbarton. Can I put it in the programme?" And I'm like, "Aye, go ahead, mate." And it was the programme for the official opening match. They had an official opening match, and it was against Rangers. We beat them 6-1. So in the Dumbarton trophy room, which hasn't had a major trophy since since they won that league title, the following league title in 1892, they used to have that programme in the actual trophy cabinet at Dumbarton, and I was in that. That was one of the proudest moments of my life was being in that. But it's one of these things. They got this new stadium, which single stand, same as like East Fife, same colours and all that. But somehow people were against brand new stadiums. Oh, it's not got the same atmosphere as the old place. And Boghead was a great ground, the home ground of Coonlockie I was using the home ground for Coonlockie from the film I shot at Glory. So Michael Knighton and and Batman and Robert Duvall, Tom Hagen had both been in. They'd both been in Boghead, and so did I a few times. I'd watched Rangers there as well in the league in kind of 84, 85. A great ground. But they moved to this new one. You thought, that's not going to be as traditional, these new guys. But because they put it down where it is, at the foot of the rock, under the castle, somehow it feels more historic than their old place, which is one of the most historic grounds in Scottish football. And it's it's the badge. The badge is an elephant with a castle on top of it because people say the big Dumbarton Rock looks like an elephant. So they're actually have built a stadium at the foot of their badge, so to speak. It's a magical place, but the pitch is crap, according to our manager. And I know why, because it's permanently in the shade of that huge castle. It's an amazing location. That castle, the history to that is unbelievable. We used to be Viking longships and Spanish galleons have sailed up the Clyde and get into that bit where it meets the Leven all around the stadium there. And it's either a proud club, a proud history. Dumbarton is a proud part of the Scottish football and heritage. They used to go down to England as Scottish champions, the teams from around there, and they would beat the English down there and basically be champions of the world in the Victorian period. So I love it. It's a great fixture. I love it when we play Dumbarton. I went to see the B team there just the once I saw the B team there. I've been a few times to Dumbarton. So I hope the game goes ahead tomorrow because I really look forward to it. And I think it's a game absolutely soaked in history. And I like it, mate.
Yeah, me too. And those are the kind of stories that the listeners tune in for. So that was.
You think so, mate? That's nice that you say so. Yes, I don't know if definitely. You do. You know what I mean? It's why I'm on, so I can tell those stories. But I don't really bother if anybody wants to hear them or not. But
one interesting story that I picked up during the week, kind of related to this game, was that Rangers have loaned 20-year-old goalkeeper to Dumbarton. I think it's Hogarth, his name is.
Aye.
Now, despite both clubs agreeing he's not allowed to play on Saturday due to SFA rules, I just wondered what your take on these kind of rules are, because I know this sort of thing's allowed to happen in Europe. I think there's some famous examples of players on loan scoring against their parent club as well. So what's your take on that kind of rule? Do you think that's the right thing to do, or do you think it should be down to the two clubs to agree? Or
I think it's quite weird. It's a thing that's been happening a lot recently with the hysteria over VAR. And VAR is it's a mass hysteria. It's a kind of anti-VAR, it's kind of like anti-vax or whatever. The same kind of vibe about it. People just go, it's just the rules. You know what I mean? Just a slightly different bit of refereeing. But pundits, the people I kind of despise the most when it comes to pundits, like Michael Stewart and Alan Shearer, will do this thing where when they're basically slandering referees, and there's a referee's going to end up, topping themselves or something. The amount of pressure these guys are under, it's absolutely unbelievable. Just been slandered. And when somebody takes the time to point out that the referee actually got it completely right, and I've seen Michael Stewart and Alan Shearer both doing this, they will say the phrase, "Well, I don't like the rule. I don't like the rule." And I think that's disgusting. I think you need to dial that right back. If you don't like the rule, that's fine, but it's a completely separate argument from whether or not the referee was, applying the rules correctly at the time. And I think this has got a touch of this as well. I didn't really look into it, mate, but I saw a wee bit of the kind of, it's just no right. I hate it, that kind of tone of argument, like they're trying to emotionally blackmail folk into changing the rules that were obviously there. And they've I don't know why they're hoping the guy. I don't know if I've hardly looked into it properly, Brian. I don't know if their usual goalkeeper isn't fit, or they just think their young Hogarth is going to automatically be a better goalkeeper. But for me personally, if we're looking just at the rule itself as opposed to the reaction to it this weekend, I'm quite happy that he wouldn't be playing against us. He would be playing against his parent team. It's not just Scotland, it's like this in a lot of countries, but can you imagine the reaction tomorrow? Nothing against the young fella, I'm sure if he's playing at Rangers at any level, he's fantastic. But if we're struggling at all in this game, or if it's early doors and we're talking about weather conditions, the one thing is it's going to be windy this weekend. This stadium, it's pretty much always wet. The pitch cuts up quite a lot. I think it's maybe because in the shade of the rock, and over this weekend that could be particularly the case. Could quite easily have a wee horrible moment where it looks like to the conspiracy theorists of the world, he's throwing the ball in the back of the net because he's playing against Rangers, and I would hate that to be attacked. Anybody can make a mistake at any time, but in this scenario, it would just give vent to all sorts of garbage. And we had enough of that last season, but I think that Michael Beale, one of the best things he did do as Rangers manager was letting Partick Thistle have that goal against us after what it was going to do to young Malik Tillman, who rewarded us by shafting us and just going somewhere else. But it was the right thing to do, and it's in that kind of spirit that it's one of those things that's keeping you honest. It's like, I try to think of an example from life, but you see all these movies where it's like, do you know, there's the money for the drugs, or do you trust me? Well, you can count it. It's like, count it in front of the person so that if it is short, it can just be a mistake, and that's it. It's like we're taking the pressure off the young fella in this situation. Take the pressure off the goalkeeper. I don't like to see it, but if we end up getting Brighton and Hove Albion in the Europa League, then I absolutely want Abdallah Sima to be allowed to play. There's no hypocrisy at play here at all, mate. No.
No, not at all. And I'm right there with you on that one, to be honest. Now, thankfully for us, we seem to have a few players returning for injury for this game. You know, Jack, Lawrence, Raskin, all coming back over the winter break. They were all in training and got minutes against Copenhagen. How important do you think that could be, not just for this game, but for the weeks and months ahead, to have those players back?
Aye, it's going to have to be, Brian. I think...
Are they almost like new signings?
Aye, I know. That's it. Do you see it? I mean, that was me. When you're looking at... People don't just want... they've got a list of players that they want to come to Ibrox in January. People have also got a list that they want to leave. They want out the door. They want things kind of tidied up. I don't want this guy to play for us ever again. It seems to ignore the fact that what we've basically done this season so far is, Kieran Dowell coming back from a winter training camp, more injured than when he went there, just sums up, I think, Kieran Dowell and Rangers in general these days. Tommy Taylor, the trainer we got for Brighton and Hove Albion, the head of performance, the guy who's supposed to be sorting out the fitness, he's probably the most vital person at Ibrox just now, because if we can start sorting out the injury problems, we've got a hell of a squad anyway before we sign anybody else. But it forgets the fact that Kieran Dowell being available and just coming back from injury, him stepping in at half time in that game, or John Sterling coming on, they suddenly became the pairing when John Lundstrom, who was one of our regulars in that sitting midfield too, that he was getting us going really under Clement. He was a mainstay of the team. He gets booted off the park by a horror tackle, red card tackle, but just before half time. And we then need John Sterling and Kieran Dowell for the second half of that game. And we then go to Motherwell. And this is us trying to keep ourselves maximum points before we go to Parkhead. And Kieran Dowell scores the goal, the first of the two early goals that we scored in that game to effectively win us the game. And then it's like, as soon as he's injured, we can't afford to re-sign him. And we need, I'm saying that myself, we need to make sure we're getting players who are fit, who don't have a history of injuries. But we're actually at a situation just now where we're rotating these players. And it's the only way. It's like the situation is a version of the situation with Kamar Roof. The only reason we've got Kamar Roof is because he's so injury prone. If he was available all the time, he would be playing top flight in England minimum. That's maximum, the best league in the world just now probably, but he would be at top flight somewhere, one of the big five leagues, because he's absolutely sensational. It's his injury problems that keeps it, and it's like that at Rangers just now. If we get a couple of signings in who are fit and regular, it's almost like the rest of the team, the injuries are almost an ongoing rotation. Kamar Roof is happy to be at Rangers and happy to be on the subs bench and happy to come in for a few games to fill in for the regular striker because, well, he's injured. So he can't object to it. And it's, I think when I saw Ryan Jack the other night, he's one of the players that people have been thinking, like get rid. He's always injured, Ryan Jack. He's getting too old and that, which is a bit of an insult for all the things he's done for us and how staunch he is generally. But he came in the other night and just a wee touch through to Dessers for the goal. He's like, he was taming that ball like Tav with one of his XL Bully Dogs, just get that sorted. That's it. But just a beautiful wee bit of football, and straight away I'm like, we can't sell Ryan Jack. We need to keep him. So
contract now.
That's it. All we've got just now is we've got Fabio Silva in. So for everybody, that's the minimum for everybody who needs us to get players in January. And we got poor Sam Lammers out as well. So that's the minimum. That's feed the dog a bone. That's just throwing something to we need to get rid of such and such types amongst the Rangers support as well. But there's a lot more got to be done. But absolutely, we need to be getting these players back, and we need to have as many players fit as possible. Apparently Raskin was kind of quiet the other night, which is understandable. But we need to get these guys back up to speed, because this next, without Sima kind of his absence, having been such a mainstay this season, his absence right up until I think we play Ross County at Ibrox, going to Easter Road. I mean, Sima scored against St Mirren last time we were away to St Mirren, last time we were on Paisley. It makes these games much more risky, and it's one slip up. Although we've got the games in hand over Celtic, I think one slip up just now really puts us back in terms of winning the league. And particularly if this game's off tomorrow and we've got the backlog as well. So everybody we can get back is a boon, mate. It's needed.
Definitely. In terms of team selection, do you expect that we'll see some of the returning players and maybe the lesser featured players get some minutes? I would quite like to see Bailey Rice and Leon King get a start, if I'm honest.
I would like to see them coming on. To be honest, mate, I would like to see us going out there and putting a team out. It depends how the manager wants to play it. If he thinks this game's in the bag, they're fourth in League Two, Dumbarton. I think they're almost assured of a promotion playoff place. But Stenhousemuir are running away with that league. I think Dumbarton and the two other teams running about them they've kind of got the next three spaces, the playoff spaces sorted. There's a bit of a drop to fifth, I think, Bonnie Rig Rose. But if Clermont thinks, we can put the reserves out and beat Dumbarton, that's fine. But he might, apart from anything else, I always like to see us making sure of a game, particularly a cup tie, because the Scottish Cup's got to be a big thing for us this season. I think we should get it put to bed. Get out there and get the damage done early. Hopefully, you would love us to, for example, be 3-0 up at half time, the same as we were in our game against another yellow and black Annan. And under Geo, the second game we played in the Scottish Cup, we're away to Annan. I remember that, and we had it was 3-0 at half time, and it didn't do anything in the second half. But the game was done. Like you bring on players. Bailey Rice, I saw Bailey Rice playing at Dumbarton, when he was playing for the B team against Gretna, the last time I saw the B team. So he certainly knows the ground pretty well. But I would like us to go out there and get the game put to bed, hopefully before half time, certainly within the first hour, before we start bringing on the reserves. But maybe the manager thinks getting the damage done could mean getting more injuries ahead of Easter Road. I want to see the first team getting a warm up, mate, getting to play with each other, implement some of the stuff they've learned in La Manga. Before they go Easter Road. I think it's going to be an interesting one. Team selection. You may have an eye on Wednesday night in terms of team selection. Obviously, that Tibbs game's a must win in terms of reducing that gap. Before we finish up talking about the weekend's game, take a score prediction from you, Alex. I'll say 3-0, 3-0, and I'm hoping it's 3-0 at half time.
Yeah, I would sell for that. Now, before we finish up tonight, I just need to mention that Rangers women have just beaten Celtic 3-2 with a late penalty to reach the Sky Sports Cup final. So that's some fantastic news, and we wish them the best of luck in the cup final.
Brilliant.
And
hopefully it's not just team in a cup final this season. That's
yes, indeed. Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest, Alex. Thanks as always.
Absolute pleasure, Brian. Brilliant. Top hosting. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you. As well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, and Stitcher, and we would ask that you leave us a rating on your preferred podcasting app. We're back on Sunday evening. I believe it's Craig, Ross and Colin on to look back on all the action from the weekend match. Until next time, bye for now.